Welcome to part 3 of our Taylor Factory Select Guitars. Today we've got 3 in, and we're going to get into some unusual stuff. Stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
My name is Cooper Greenberg.
And we're here with Alamo Music in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos. If you want to support the channel, visit our spring store, link below for custom swag, and check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can buy stuff from us, and you can buy stuff for us. We like food and other goodies. Today, it's part 3 of our video showcasing some of the guitars that we picked woods for when we visited the Taylor Factory last summer. They've been coming in as we promised, and we are showcasing them. And today, there's stuff that's off the beaten path.
Yeah, there's also some things in here that are not typically done.
Firsts-ish.
First-ish, one of ones, whatever you want to call them. Come home with Factory Select. You know? That's what I'm saying right there.
Sure.
Let's start with that one. I want to get into the individual specs on each one.
Yeah.
And I printed them out, so it'd be fun,
So
and
I
could follow along, because we got carried away at some points with some things that we liked.
So the way this went down, just so you are aware, it was a very fun trip, and we're very grateful to Taylor for having us go out. By the way, to the snarky people that keep going in our comments, I wonder if it's like one guy. Like, how much is Taylor paying you? They don't, like, that's not how this works, dude.
It's more like the Clarence Thomas way, where they treat us to lavish vacations.
Not very lavish, but the burritos were tasty.
The burritos were tasty.
So, yeah, so Taylor did take us out there. We're a dealer, so that's not out of the norm. And we got to do some cool stuff. The first thing we really did after partaking of some breakfast items was get into the wood selection room with Andy.
Yeah,
and
we
got to pick out the woods for these guitars.
No place I'd rather be, you know what I'm saying?
It was later that we finished speccing them out.
Yeah.
And that is where we were kind of like,
let's go.
Yeah, some fun stuff. So this all started with this. And you already had an idea going in that you wanted to do a Grand Symphony.
Oh, yeah.
With the sound port bevel cutaway, which they didn't do.
No.
They have not been offering that in the custom shop, and we'll talk about why in a second. But we came upon this piece of walnut, which they affectionately refer to as Queen's walnut. The species is Clara walnut, which Taylor fans will know back in the late 90s and early 2000s, they had a walnut series that was made of Clara walnut. Very beautiful flame. But this is from a particular tree that is extremely figured. They had done a limited series 10 years ago. I remember we had a grand concert that was Queen's walnut. And this was a beautiful set that was just barely big enough to build this GS with.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know, if there's a beautiful back set, it's the trouble is finding sides that are cool enough to match, but this had matched sides with it already that are incredible sides, which is a good benefit because you're looking at the side usually, not always looking at the back. The sides are very striking. But yeah, they do not typically do sound ports in the custom shop. Now, I think someday that would become maybe a menu option, but it's really been on 3 guitars in, you know, standard line, which would be 326, K26, and the 816 Builder's Edition, and some catch guitars.
Well, and so let's talk about the reason that, because we asked while we were picking woods, and the reason Andy said they haven't made it an offering is because not all tone wood pairings would work well with the way that they are bracing and designing these guitars. And so rather than, I guess, deal with what would and wouldn't work well, they've just had it as part of a series and not had an offering. But we did this with, it's a Lutz top, right?
Give me the Lutz.
With walnut, and we're like, this is kind of what we have in mind. Will this work? And he said, yeah, it gave him his blessing. He was excited about it, actually.
Yeah.
It's walnut, but not your typical walnut. This is like exhibition grade. Like if you were making a fancy, like a presentation, exhibition grade shotgun or something.
Yeah.
This is what you would seek out for the gun stock. I personally love walnut. I love everything about it. I love the smell. I love how it works. I love sanding it, joining it, sawing it, planing it, everything. I love the sound of it when the guitar is all done.
Yeah.
There is everything to love about it. It's usually straight, and that's what we're using on like our American Dream Series guitars, because we can get this really nice straight grain walnut. That's wonderful. Once in a very rare while, it grows like this, where it's stripy and curly fiddleback and swirly. It's like all of the stuff. Yeah. It's more like the dashboard of a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, wow, that's got everything going on.
What?
This came from one specific tree up in Washington, and it's like,
See all that flame?
yeah, let me grab our
That's the
squirt
bee's knees
bottle
right there. The cat's pajamas. There you go.
So by the time it's finished, it's all of the colors and all of the stripes and all of the kind of everything. It's
That's hardcore.
exhibition grade.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
What kind of walnut is this technically?
Claro.
It's Claro walnut.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is not. Okay, that was the question.
Yeah. What size guitar would this be?
Any of
Any
it.
of them?
GAGS, I think, on the back.
GA,
Okay.
GS, GP. I don't think that one I could do a GO out of.
She said these are the last sets. Like they're done. These are the last few.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. That one I could probably do a GO out of, so it could be almost anything. These are just, they all look like this. They're just incredibly colorful.
So you said, you know, a lot of different tops pair well, but what body size or shape do you think is
Again,
ideal?
Kind of all.
Yeah.
That's one of the things like this. It's like golden retriever of woods.
Yeah.
It just wants to make you happy. It just always sounds good. It's pleasant in every way to work with.
What do you? I'm just gonna throw this out there.
Yeah.
What do you think about a GS?
GS?
Right now, GS is X-Brace only, and no sound port if it's in custom. But that's not a problem. I also wanted to ask you too, because we talked about maybe a 6-string, 12-string combo. How do you feel about this walnut? Would it be a waste to put this on a 12-string, or would that be awesome and amazing?
The awesome and amazing is a 12-string. Yeah, you could do it.
GA matching pair, GA 12-string. Can we do a GA V-class 12-string?
Oh.
Okay.
Now. What about a GS X-Brace 12 string?
Yes.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Yep.
Trying to think about whether we could doing some mental gymnastics to see if that would work. I haven't built one of the Soundport GS guitars with this. It might work. Come on, baby. I won't do a 12-string like that, but it might work.
What kind of top do you think would be cool? Because initially I had this thought of like this with a torrefied spruce top. No?
If it was a GA or a GP, yes, absolutely. If it was a GS, no. I do a Lutz top with it. That's all. I bet you that would work. I'll bet you that would work.
That'd be cool.
It means that it has to be pretty specific measurements. You need it to be the shorter scale. It has to be, it's best if it's a spruce top. I bet you that would work. Do ebony binding on it. That would look good. No armrest. I bet you that would come out good.
We're all nodding.
Well, that sounds pretty cool.
I bet you it'll work. Do a Let's Top.
Okay.
Let's top GS.
And I would pick this one specifically because I like the color.
So the thing is, the Grand Symphony, bigger than Grand Auditorium, a little bit smaller than a Grand Orchestra, but one of the underrated shapes. And it's had, I mean, sometimes we get in 416s and, you know, like some older guitars that I think still are just so good, and I wish there was a little bit more offering, but
My custom tailor's a GS.
I know.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I say that begrudgingly because I wish, you know. So the GS with the sound port, you've already got this big, huge body sound, a lot of depth, a lot of full, tone coming out of it. But with the sound port, adds sort of that shimmery chime. And with that combo, it gets you everywhere you need to go. Similar to single ab ring bound sound. You know what I'm saying?
You need to go.
But that's my segue into getting into some of the aesthetic specs, which I think are very tasteful. I like that there's no pick guard on this. But
we did spec these after. So we picked all the woods out. We had an idea. There were some things that we'll talk about with some of the others, like color-wise or whatnot, that as we were selecting the woods, we talked about with Andy. But a lot of the rest of it, we kind of powwowed afterwards and was like, what do we want to see on this guitar? What would be cool?
And that led us to, after we chose a very, very pretty ebony fingerboard that was specifically chosen for this guitar, the early 900 series inlay, which is super tight.
Well, and it has some connection to Walnut. So Taylor fans might remember that back in the late 90s and the early aughts, Taylor offered a Walnut series. So at the very top end of their lineup, you had kind of above the 800 series was the 900 series, the Koa series, the Walnut series, and the Presentation series. And the Walnut guitars were all walnut back and sides. Some of them had walnut tops, but then they would either have like Engelmann spruce or cedar as the top of them. And they all featured in the late 90s this inlay pattern. This inlay pattern is what's called the old 900 series because it was on the 900 series before it was on the Walnut series. But I've always loved it. It's just a very beautiful kind of inlay pattern that, much like the Cindy does, it's kind of evolving as it moves along the fretboard, and has a wonderful inlay up here on the headstock as well, which is really nice. So that's where that came from and why it's really fitting for this guitar.
It is fitting. And then on the sound port, it may look black in the video. It is ebony in that cutaway, which is continued on through ebony binding throughout this whole thing. And then, on the spec sheet, this is one of the coolest things about it. It's a right-handed guitar, which is something that I think it's very important to me as a player.
Yeah.
But
we'd have to review it upside down.
I would like to take a listen to this one because it's a very unique sound. It's big and full, but it's got this bright shimmer. I dig it. I think it came out really nice. It's very easy to play. So let's take a listen to the Queen's Walnut GS sound port. We'll come up with a catchier name on it.
Okay, so moving on from the Queen's Walnut GS, we have a beautiful GA that I remember the finish of this was at the suggestion of Andy because Bladau really quilted maple.
Heavily quilted
Yes.
maple, which is another wood that we went in knowing that we wanted to do something cool with maple. This is not the only maple guitar that we have. It's the only quilted maple guitar. If you like flame, keep your eyes open on the channel and all that. But for quilt, you don't see a ton like this. You see it sometimes on like veneers on other guitars, but for like a solid set, again, beautiful sides, beautiful back. That It's awesome.
Yeah.
And the top finish, I mean, it matches perfectly, but like Wild Honey Burst is, I think, the signature Taylor burst. I mean, they do a ton with Tobacco Sunburst and all that. They got cool colors. This is the finish or color that I think when it's offered versus a natural, people go to this all the time, you know?
Well, and there's a reason that, so this was one of the ones where I think a lot of the specifications we actually did kind of decide upon as we were selecting the woods with Andy.
Let's go to maple then. Let's make sure we do something like that. Maple.
There's a really cool cause pad laying around. And yeah, I haven't seen anything like this in a little while.
No figure.
I think we'll be able
They
to
are
find it.
Yeah, a sample would
And they're amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to ask him about like how he
So,
feels about
thanks,
that.
Cos.
Like again, like, he likes building
The
maple
odds of
guitars
that
that
making
don't
it
have
through
no grain.
side
You
bending.
know what I kind of like to do is something with
Relatively
that kind
small.
of Japanese aesthetic, like we had with the EG.
It's incredible.
I know.
I think that'd be kind of nice.
And you have noticed that a lot of your amazing maple guitars, like the guitar we sent to the Edge, and like
Yeah.
some of your Jomos, like you like maple guitars that don't have a lot of figure, it seems. And why is that? Because I've played them all, like a lot of them, and they're great. They're
Because
amazing.
they're really hard to bend.
Without breaking.
Is that really it?
No.
Okay.
You can learn. This one, I was just asking Garrett, this one, the figure is so deep. It's kind of like a, I make no promises. That might work, it might not.
Might blow up.
That one might blow up.
Yeah.
That looks
It's pretty stiff,
ridiculous.
and so it probably would come out. And once it is bent, it's way more stable than it is in this form. That's just so unbelievably deeply figured.
I don't know, what would you put on the top?
If we're gonna add a little bit of color, could I do a roasted top?
Yeah, I was gonna
Roasted
say you can
spruce
do
top?
torrefied spruce and then do like a burst on it.
Yeah, do torrefied spruce and then do either a traditional kind of a sunburst or even cooler, the wild honey burst,
Wild Honey Burst would be really nice.
because that one sets down really deep
Yeah.
into the wood because the coloring agent isn't actually sitting on top, it's soaking in. It'll exaggerate every little swirl in that figure.
That'd be nice.
That would be a cool guitar. Do it with Ivoroid binding, some kind of
Yeah.
traditional fretboard inlay.
That'd be very cool.
That would be a cool guitar.
What's the heritage inlay?
Oh, like
diamonds?
the Century or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Yeah, something like that.
That would be really sweet.
Yeah.
And some of it he was very excited about doing and made very clear suggestions. Part of it was using this finish, the wild honey finish would kind of sink into the grain and really bring out this undulating pattern of the quilted maple that this guitar has and go with the top really well because the top on this is?
Torrefied Sitka spruce.
That's right. So if we'd gone with like a natural finish of the quilt, then you would know like the quilt would be this nice blonde look and then the top would be a darker torrefied spruce look and it would just kind of be a little off. So, you know, the use of color brings out the grain or the quilt in the maple and ties everything together really well. But the other part that he really wanted to do that I thought was really great was to use this like grained ivoroid binding, which helps to determine the inlay that we do.
And it totally sets everything else off really well, but Century inlay,
Century inlay, yep.
ingrained ivoroid, perfect fit. This guitar is like if you love a 614 Builder's Edition, but you want it like turned up to 95 or something and like glossed out, incredible wood. Shall we not forget about the neck itself?
And the neck being flame maple as well. There's a certain kind of classic aspect to this guitar that I really dig.
I dig it. It's an absolute maple lover's dream, but I think the torrefied, the sound when paired with maple, it's a smart choice on our part, Andy's part, whatever. But I mean, I think 600 series, again, I mentioned with the Grand Symphony doesn't get enough love. 600 series doesn't get enough love. we've talked about it plenty on the channel that maple's misunderstood. It's not a bright tone wood, it's a flat response cab.
That's right.
It's straight up player reflective. Torrefied spruce gives you a little more played-in warmth.
Right. Well, this guitar does a lot of what they did when they revamped the 600 series. It's got that 600 series revamped bracing where the back braces really don't tie into the kerfing that goes in there. It allows the guitar to really breathe. And having the torrefied top paired with the maple really does open it up more and allow for a certain richness that maybe a lot of people are lacking when they play a lot of maple guitars. And so you do get a really nice linear response, really nice sustain, and of course there's a resonance that usually is reserved for an older guitar that is straight out of the box with this thing.
Yeah.
Plus it plays like a dream and looks amazing.
Yeah, and just as a quick side note, the Taylor package typically gloss body, gloss peg head, satin neck. This does have a gloss neck. I think it works perfectly on this guitar.
To make that pop.
It makes the neck pop. I mean, it's this thing is absolute maple syrup, and it is a right-handed guitar. So
Is that on the spec sheet?
Yeah, it's on the
Good,
spec sheet.
good.
So let's take a listen. The right-handed Maple Lover's Dream, the 614 Alamo edition, whatever you want to call it. Beautiful guitar. Check it out.
Now this one I was really excited about because this is kind of a guitar I've been wanting to build at Taylor for a long time. And I don't know if I ever told you that, but this is a very beautiful guitar with very unique woods. Let's start on the back.
Yeah, I can see why you'd want to build that.
So this is Tasmanian myrtle.
The Myrt dog is what I like to call it.
Myrtle wood is, I think, a fantastic tone wood. And, when we were there early or during part of our tour, they took out a guitar that they'd made years prior as part of the gallery series, the Pelican guitar, that had myrtle wood back and sides. And I remember playing that guitar or an example of it years before and just really liked the wood. I'd played myrtle on some other acoustic guitars. And I just really liked, there's a certain aspect to this where it, like some other tone woods, it kind of fits in between a lot of things. There's maple qualities to it, but there's some really nice mahogany qualities to it. And this guitar, I think, is just stunning. When we saw this wood with this coloration, we were excited what we could do with it because it's just got some amazing colors and some amazing flame.
Yeah, I've only gotten the opportunity, I think, of playing one other custom Taylor with Myrtle. It was something that a customer did through our store, and of course I unboxed it and I played it, and it sounded incredible. It was also a grand concert, and the grain itself was much simpler than this. It was pretty straightforward, but just the sound itself. And the customer, she knew that she wanted Myrtle for sure, and I was like, oh, okay. But I played it, rock and roll, I get it immediately. Now playing this one, I've already played 2 incredible guitars. This is the one that blew my mind the most today. Perfect top pairing on this guitar as well.
Yeah, and this was an idea that we had, and given the coloring and the size and the wood pairing, this was another one of those kind of excited responses that he had, because we said, how about doing cedar with this Myrtle? And he's like, yes, that would be awesome. And he's right, it is awesome.
What's the deal with Myrtle?
What's the deal with Myrtle?
What's the deal? Every country has a Myrtle. This one is Oregon Myrtle, also known as California Laurel. So it's not Tasmanian Myrtle, it's not Australian Myrtle, it's not any of the other myrtles that are out there.
It's really pretty.
It is super pretty. Yeah, it's kind of like everybody's got an Aunt Myrtle. Every country has one. Every region has one. Sonically, it's kind of similar to maple. Fairly player reflective, and it grows with a nice curly figure, like that. Again, throw those woods. It works. It works really well. It's a well-behaved guitar. It's a great sounding guitar. Extremely good stage guitar because it amplifies so well. Has a little more color than most maples, so it looks pretty neat just in natural. Looks really good with a shade around the edge. I like the figure on that one. So if you were going to pick one of those, that's what I'd pick.
Yeah, I like that. It's nice and flamed.
Yeah.
Pair that with kind of a creamy top.
Sure.
Yeah. Lutz might be good on that one.
Yeah, it would. That's like a nice safe bet. You go like, man, that's going to work good. Cedar is another really good one over top of this.
Yeah.
I really like the sound of Western Red Cedar over maple. We don't build many like that because the
Coloration.
color is a
Yeah,
little
The contrast.
weird for
Yeah.
some people. So sometimes I'll do like a cedar top over maple and then do a sunburst on
Right.
it. Something like that to make the guitar look more cohesive. On this, cedar looks really good with it.
Got the coloration.
What about redwood? Same difference, or would
Same
it
kind
be-
of thing, cedar is better.
Okay.
Yeah, redwood's darker, so
Yeah, it just leans a little redder,
yeah.
you
Some
know?
of the redwood we have has been pretty light, actually,
really?
lately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
depends on
Yeah.
how old it is, what the tree was like. One of my picks would be to use a cedar top on that because the colors would look so good together and the sound would be so good of it together.
What do you think about GC?
That would work.
Shade the whole thing, shade
Maybe
the
like
neck,
14
the top,
Or
the
not,
back sides,
or just let
keep
it-
it white, keep it
Or
pale.
Yeah,
let it go
finish it clear.
natural.
Okay. Yeah.
This one has enough color and so much figure.
We
Pretty good that way.
we got some pretty cool Catch grand concerts with cedar tops that people really freaked
Really
out
liked.
about.
Yeah, this,
I like
we
the
responsiveness
don't
on
get
the
to
small
do
body.
we don't get to do much with cedar because it's hard to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to get in the kind of grades we want. Another thing that would look really neat on this is to do either like cocobolo binding or koa binding or something like,
Like wood
that.
maybe too.
Yeah, you could do bloodwood
yeah, I
even.
like the darker.
Because
Great
this,
idea. Yeah,
this
I like
one it doesn't have. Sometimes this wood can have like a olive-ish undertone.
Yeah.
This set doesn't. It's going to go a little more almost rosy red.
Cocobolo, dude.
Co-
Oh,
So
you're
you
right. Yeah,
binding.
cocoa.
You could do, this would be a context where even though it's flamey, even though it's got color, you could put a wild looking wood
Yeah.
set
Yeah.
of trimmings on
I'm
it.
gonna ask a question. I'm gonna tell by your facial expression if you hate this idea. Cocobolo mini wedge in the back. So the binding.
could.
Yeah.
You could.
Okay. Okay.
On this one, you could totally do that.
Okay. All right. What do you guys think of that?
Partly because you already
Something
have
straight.
this sort of arrowed look with that figure.
Kind of complete a chevron type thing.
That's what I'm
And
thinking.
so
yeah.
if you did a Cocobolo mini wedge and then Cocobolo binding all the way around
Yeah.
it,
yeah.
that would be pretty sweet looking.
All right.
If you paired it with the cedar top that I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of gunning for it because
Contingency.
I really like that combination. I don't get to do it very often.
GC 12 fret or 14 fret?
Either both are going to be good. GA,
Thinking
GC
of
14
fret.
Yeah.
I like where you're thinking there because we already do. We're
Any
already
of
doing a
those
12
would be
fret.
cool.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got a cool 12. I think 14 fret GC Cocobolo adorned. I think that'd be very cool.
Have you played a GC 14 fret with a Florentine cutaway lately?
Did we?
No.
We had one of
Did I?
those.
Did I get a chance to play
It was
It would probably be like the one that we made that year.
so.
Yeah, we don't.
There was one, and I'm pretty sure it was.
playable guitar.
We got those customs that you offered to us.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
it
the
was a
Hondurans.
Florentine cut
Yeah.
GC, and it had a wide nut on it.
Yeah.
That
I
was
love that
awesome.
guitar.
Yeah.
Well, I have a 40 cut, so
I'd do it.
You do wide nut 1 7/8.
I'm more comfortable on a 1 3/4
I'm
personally.
comfortable with it.
And so I would probably lean that way. Some
Yeah.
people really like the wide nut. It feels too wide to me, but that's just me.
Well, it would
But-
definitely be more palatable for the
A
average person. to have it.
a GC 14 fret with a Florentine would be a rad combo with that.
Cocobolo,
Cocobolo
cedar
mini
top.
wedge,
Yeah.
Cocobolo binding,
It's a
cedar
cool
top.
guitar.
Yeah.
No one else is
That
gonna
sounds
get you. I'm
great.
just gonna take that home.
Yeah,
Is that your guitar?
that'd be a cool guitar to play.
It is awesome, and kind of like how the binding on the maple guitar really set off the coloration of the wood pairing. This is like a dream choice with the Cocobolo with the mini wedge on the heel cap. I mean, and we haven't even mentioned the fact, even though you can see it, that it's Florentine. The entire thing is just, it came out so like caramel colored, pretty with just these lines and that. It's very, very cool.
I really like Florentine cutaways. I own a DDSM that has a Florentine, but
Yeah.
one of the cool things about it, one, I think it's a classic look.
Yeah.
But two, Taylor standard, it's a Venetian cutaway. And so when you see one, usually it's implying that it's special,
Yeah.
from a distance, which is pretty cool. This was another one of those kind of figured ebony fingerboards that we went with. And remind me what the inlay is called?
Little heritage diamonds.
Heritage diamond. Again, an ivoroid.
Simple enough, like it's is luxurious, but doesn't take away. I dig it.
Elegant.
I really like that inlay. I mean, this guitar, it looks very interesting. It draws you to it, but this is the one when I was playing. I always kind of mess around before we hit record, and I was doing some kind of finger-picked single note stuff, and both Josh and I were just blown away with it's like a Big Sky pedal is kicked on with this guitar just straight out the gate. Reverb and overtones, like this
Yeah.
harmonic reverb, unreal sound. So yeah, this one is my dark horse of the entire run so far. I love the cedar sassafras. This and that one are turning me into a cedar top lover, and yeah, it's fantastic. Right-handed guitar. Let's take a listen.
So there you have it, part 3 with 3 fantastic guitars that are part of our factory select visit to the Taylor factory. And each one is really unique and really special.
Yeah.
So we have a few more that are still due. All of these are in a special section of our website. So if you go to the remodeled alamomusic.com and you look at guitars, there is a section where we have the Taylor Factory Select guitars. And some of those guitars are just the wood photos right now because they haven't come in yet. But you'll get an idea of kind of what's still in store.
Yeah, and if, we've been, as photos get taken, we've been putting them up there, but leaving up the wood set, because that is one of the most mind-blowing things about getting to do something like this is you see a piece of wood that is by itself awesome, and then getting to see, like, after, months of waiting, weeks of, like, putting it all together and specking out all that and dreaming about it, it comes out and it actually works. The process works, but there are plenty of very, very good options from Taylor that are standard line things. All of these are things that I think could use a little more attention, be it body shapes, woods, and it's part of that's the availability. It's not like there's not much of this hanging out.
No, there's not.
Out in the world, and especially
or even this, like what there were 3 sets
Yeah.
of Tasmanian Myrtlewood, and this was the nicest one. So sorry, we got it.
There's not a ton of availability on woods that look like this, but also just from a build standpoint, like get yourself a GC with the Florentine, get yourself a Soundport GS. There's really, really cool stuff within the walls of Taylor that can be done, and I think we got more ideas in the future, and there's some other stuff from this trip that's coming in that's going to blow your mind. But yeah, check out the specs and the early wood photos and everything, because it's very, very satisfying to see it all come together.
So the specifications for all of these guitars, along with all of our photography of them, can be seen on that website. Again, it is alamomusic.com. And if you like cool custom guitars like this, or just talking about guitars, reviews, demos, and what have you, then you should already be subscribed to this channel. So if you aren't, Cooper, tell them what they should do.
You're going to want to subscribe to the channel and turn the notifications on, because part 4 will be here before you know it, and other catch guitars that we already have here that we haven't even shot yet, and other things that aren't Taylor, and maybe someday left-handed guitars will be on the channel.
Maybe it'll be on the spec sheet.
Yeah,
but it'll still be a right-handed guitar.
Yeah, we can do that. We can, whatever you guys need
Just
us
be
to
like,
do.
psych.
But
We
yeah,
thought it was left, and then we went this way.
it's a classic rope-a-dope. But yeah, subscribe, notifications on, comment on the videos, like the videos. If you are a Taylor fan and you know somebody that is a Taylor fan that has no idea what we're doing over here, if you comment and like on them, there's a better chance that it gets to those people, so we can all have our fun Taylor club together. So that's my bit on that.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for watching. Let us know what you think below, and we'll see you next time.